So, Jenny, thanks for joining me, and here to talk about the report called "Assessment of Occupational and Skills Needs and Gaps for the Energy Efficient Buildings Workforce." It's quite a mouthful, but I think I got that right.
Yes, you did.
One of the things that were concluded is that what's lacking or what we need more of in this space is a building as a system mindset. So maybe you could just spend a little bit of time explaining to me and to the audience, what do we mean by building as a system?
Well, my typical way of explaining it is to compare an old style sailing ship from the 17 or 1800s to one of the new digitized nuclear ships that are floating on the seas today. So I think of the building sector in the same way, where a traditional building doesn't have all of the bells and whistles that we'll see in some of these smart buildings today. And the achievement of the smart technology, the energy efficiency technology, basically requires that the building be thought of as an integrated system, and that particular integration take place from the very beginning at the design and initiation phase of the project and throughout the life cycle of the building as well.
And so when we talk about developing, adopting, cultivating this building as a system mindset, what sort of construction industry players are we looking at? Are we looking at the owner? Are we looking at the designers, engineers, the trades, everybody?
Everybody, yep, it's a team effort in the building as a system approach. The uh, the approach is integrated, it's collaborative, and individuals from the construction trade sector, the design phase, the operations phase are all brought together to have input and to understand what the uh, ultimate objective of the building is in terms of energy efficiency, and to make sure that the objectives are achieved through the methods, processes, materials, technology, and equipment that's used in the building process.
And so really, if everyone adopts this building as a system mindset, then in theory, everyone is the strongest link. We don't have one weak link sort of bringing everything else and including those energy efficiency objectives. We're not bringing those down.
Absolutely. It's critical that everybody is playing on the team and everybody is well prepared and trained and has the skills necessary in order to play their role as efficiently as possible.
One of the things that I want to ask you about is that the report found that the Canada's building sector workforce doesn't have the widespread experience or skills required to perform their roles that achieves those energy efficiency goals. So in looking at them, what are they lacking? Is it the mindset that we've just been talking about, or is there some more missing there?
Well, there are a couple of pieces that are missing, and I have to say that it's not that it's completely absent in the Canadian workforce in the building sector. There are companies, small organizations, architects, engineering companies, and building operators that are specializing in energy efficiency and high performing buildings. And in those particular enterprises, we do see these skills being used. But on a more broad scale, we see that it's basically business as usual. The construction trades come in after the design phase, and there's not much coordination between the designers and the construction workers or the construction managers. The operators come on to play after the construction is completed. And so it's introducing this integrated approach and the collaboration and facilitation of that integrated approach into a wider swath of the energy efficiency workforce. On the other side of the coin, as I was saying earlier, these are smart buildings that we're constructing when we're looking for energy efficiency. They're designed to be as low energy using as possible, and a lot of that comes from the networking systems, the sensors, the meters. The various different technology that are integrated into the building that allow the operator to ensure that the building is meeting its energy efficiency goals. That digital technology is new in a lot of people's experience, especially in the construction trades and construction management part of the world. And so that's an area where we see the skills could be improved, could be upskilled.
And see, you with that comment there, you sort of segued, perhaps even answered my next question, which focuses on those digital skills, because the report highlighted, as you've highlighted right now, that we will see increased demand for digital skills and digital literacy across select occupations. Um, can you maybe point to some occupations where there is a bona fide lack or more training needed to bring up that digital literacy?
Well, in the case of construction managers in particular, we need individuals to be capable to understand the data and the analytics that are being produced by the equipment and sensors and technology that are being employed in the job site. We also need the building operators to be digitally savvy. Building operators are traditionally not thought of as being high-tech workers, but in the smart building world, that's exactly what they have to be. In the case of the designers, the architects, the engineers, often they've got the skills required. That's not an issue. For them, it's more the integration piece that needs to be expanded.
So everybody learning to sort of speak the same language when it comes to digital and data and knowing what to do with it and how to manipulate it.
Exactly, and being aware of the quality of the data that's being produced. So being comfortable with the technology, being comfortable with making sure that the technology is working properly and that the information is being collected, the data is being collected and being applied appropriately in order to best optimize the energy efficiency of the buildings.
Jenny, I like that you said right there, applied appropriately, because I quite often hear about data and piles and piles and piles of data being generated, but people don't know what to do with it, or there's so much of it that maybe they just turn their backs to it because it scares them.
Yes, well, we find especially in the construction phase of the life cycle, the building life cycle, there are some concerns that the workforce has about moving towards a more digital way of doing things, in part because there's some fear that they may be made redundant by automation. Uh, but on a larger scale, because it's going to require them to stretch a little bit in terms of their knowledge and their capabilities, and think critically about what they're doing rather than just going through the motions.
Now, one of the things, Jenny, that the report points out, and again, we'll include links so that people can actually read the report and get more deeply into it. But there are occupations and skills that are currently out there. You had mentioned, engineers, architectural community. They're already familiar with the digital and data and stuff. But there are some occupations that are expected to grow at a faster rate due to their involvement with specific energy efficient related technologies, materials, or processes. So who is or who are I don't know if that's a correct sentence. What kind of people or professions are performing those tasks now? And which ones do you see really expanding in the coming years?
That's a good question. What we find is that the overall workforce is already in place, although there are a few occupations, as you said, that are going to become it's more important as the sector becomes more technologically advanced and as the processes for developing buildings become more integrated. For example, the integrated design process facilitator is an example of an occupation which, largely speaking, doesn't exist on a wide scale. There are a few individuals who have that experience and are able to integrate and coordinate all of the various different teams. But right now, it's engineers and architects that are generally doing that sort of facilitation. The other area where we're seeing more growing occupations is actually in the integration of IT professionals or data analysts, software programmers, cybersecurity specialists. Those sorts of individuals were not considered part of the construction sector in the past, but are increasingly needed as part of the construction sector in order to achieve the building as a system and the smart building that we need for energy efficiency.
Yes, that's something that I remember reading in the report that we need more of these uh, folks who understand bits and bytes and are able to assemble them and manipulate them so that we can achieve our energy efficient and smart building objectives. One final question for you, Jenny. So we talked about some of these gaps. We talked about sort of who's doing some of the work now, how we see it expanding. Um, do we are there new certifications or new lines of training that perhaps still don't exist in the market or do but really need to be expanded so that we can take that intelligence and take that smart building energy efficiency end game to the next level?
What we found in our research is that in a lot of cases, the current educational system can incorporate the various different skills into their current programs rather than having to design new programs from scratch. So, for example, engineering programs or architecture programs can inform their students about the need for facilitation and for integration in the workplace. The trades professionals can gain experience with the digital technology within the classroom. But in addition to that, we also see that there are opportunities for standards or certifications to be created for certain occupations which right now do not have those certifications or are not uniformly standardized. For example, commissioning professionals or building operations managers. Those are occupations where the certification or the standards, if they're set, will encourage the adoption of these professions or to incorporate these professions and to make them more attractive to individuals who are interested in potentially becoming a worker in that profession. Standards across the board can help ensure that the individuals employed as well as the employers can assure the quality that's necessary from the work that's being done and to make those particular occupations more attractive to individuals who are interested in a job in that particular field.
That's an excellent point because when I think about standardization, standards, certification, it brings legitimacy, it brings confidence. So I'm glad you brought that up. Jenny, I do thank you for taking the time today to start digging into this report and focusing on some of the highlights. But again, I'll include a link so that people can hopefully download the entire report, give it a read. Jenny, thanks again.
I really appreciate the invitation to come speak with you today.